Hope everybody's doing good. I miss you so much. Miss Shirley is here with me.
Hey.
We are going to read to you Wonderstruck because we know that you're most interested in finishing the book and seeing what happens with Rose and Ben. My class has not done lesson 9, which is the beginning of part 2, so that's what I'm going to do. And then Miss Shirley and I are going to alternate lessons, and so you'll just be able to watch the videos that go along with it. Your packet has been uploaded onto your Google Classroom, so you are able to do the work that goes with it. Okay? Here we go. Part 2, remember that Ben was born deaf in one ear. He's living with his aunt and uncle and 2 cousins because his mom died in a car accident. He went over to his mom's house because he saw the light on, and he wished that his mom had came back. And he found Janet, his cousin, wearing his mom's clothes. And so anyway, he found the bookmark, and it had the phone number on it. He tried to call the phone number to find Danny, remember the guy in the locket? And he got struck by lightning, so now he is deaf in both ears, and that's where we picked up. He was in the hospital in Duluth. It says, Ben felt the heat of someone's skin against his cheek. He opened his eyes and found himself leaning against a tall young man asleep in the seat next to him. The bus shook and rattled. It seemed as if he'd been on the road for months, but it couldn't have been more than a day or 2. Ben squeezed the suitcase that lay on the floor between his feet. The clasps were broken, but it managed to stay shut. He was hungry, and his head still rumbled the way it had ever since the lightning strike a few weeks earlier. So we're like maybe a month down the road after he got struck by lightning, and it says that he is in a bus. I want you to infer, where is Ben going? Remember that he was in the hospital in Duluth, and I want you to remember what his connection is with Duluth. Do you think that's where he's going? Do you think he's going to the museum? Or do you think that maybe he's going somewhere else? Is there another place that he wants to probably go? So he is not in the hospital. It says the bus shook and rattled. So he is on the bus to somewhere. He has left the hospital. It says, as the world sped outside the dirty bus window, Ben rubbed the smooth silver locket between his fingers. He was happy to have it around his neck. He pulled it back and forth along the thin chain and wished he'd remembered to leave behind a note. But why would he have to leave behind a note? Do you think that he had permission to go where he's going? Ben didn't want to fall asleep again, but he soon found himself dreaming that the wolves were chasing him all the way from Gunflint Lake. When he awoke, he was out of breath, as if he'd been running for miles. His head throbbed. Ben realized the bus was no longer moving. The young man next to him was gone, as was everyone else. There was a strange stillness all around him, like time had stopped. He pressed his face against the window for a moment. Ben thought that he might still be dreaming. And we're back to Rose's story. Remember that Rose is completely deaf. We learned that she ran away from her tutor because she does not want to learn how to lip read. Remember what she did with the pages of the book that her tutor brought to her. And then she got in trouble for cutting out the Lillian Mayhew article from her dad's newspaper. And she went upstairs and packed her suitcase. So she was on the ferry to New York. It looks like she's gotten there because we see the Welcome to New York sign. And we see Rose standing here. How do you think she feels? If you were, I guess you're probably close in age to Rose. How would you feel if you were by yourself in a place like Manhattan, New York? This is a big, big place with millions of people who live there. And you're all alone by yourself. So we see a picture of, this is a huge bridge. Here's Rose down here in the corner. You can tell because it's highlighted around her. And just look at all the people, so many people. And remember, she doesn't have what you have. She can't hear anything that's going on around her. She is totally there by herself. Okay, what do you think she sees? Look at her face. What does her face say? Is she scared of something? Is she maybe happy to see something? What do you think her face is telling you? Look at her face now. She's got a little smile on it. And if you look at the newspaper stand that she has run across, she has found, I can't tell if this is like a magazine, maybe a newspaper, but it's got Lillian Mayhew's face on it, and so that would make her excited. It's titled Movie Life. And there's a guy down here in the corner. He probably runs the newspaper stand, and he is probably selling all these items. This newspaper says, Stage and Screen, Lillian Mayhew opens tomorrow on the New York stage. So she has found herself Lillian Mayhew. And this is kind of like a story of her life, kind of maybe like a shortened version. This is her rise. So this would be how she became famous. Life on stage. Remember that she left the doctor for the young actor. So this is her overcoming the scandal. Her leading man is Percy Schiller. So I can infer, based on his haircut, that this is the same guy. Here goes Rose again. She is in, looks like a bus, maybe a taxi or something, because you see her suitcase in her hand. It's in her lap. And we're back to Ben. Was Ben really here? Holding his suitcase, he stepped off the bus into the rank, hot station. His legs felt wobbly, as if he were standing in a canoe. How long had he been on the bus? A clock on the wall read 9:30, but there were no windows in the station, so he didn't know if it was 9:30 in the morning or in the evening. He followed the crowd through the vast gray and red spaces of the station. Everything was lit by dingy fluorescent bulbs, half of which were broken or flickering. They made Ben's eyes hurt. The filthy floors stretched on forever. Along the walls, ragged people lay curled up in unfolded cardboard boxes. It was so quiet. And then Ben remembered that he still couldn't hear. The doctors had said his hearing might return. They ran so many tests in the hospitals and discovered the lightning had damaged his eardrum. Ben looked down at the silent shoes in the station and up at all the silent mouths. What would life be like if his hearing never came back? He followed the rush of people around the corners and down the escalators until they all came to the set of the big glass doors leading outside into the bright light of morning. And we see Rose rushing. You can tell she's rushing. Remember, we talked about how her leg is kicked up. This looks like she's running here, not just walking. And she is rushing out of, this might be the subway rather than the bus. She's got her suitcase held tightly in her arms. Lillian Mayhew in My Mother's Advice. Now remember that these pictures, sometimes they give us clues into the future. Tickets on sale at 3 p.m. Lillian Mayhew in My Mother's Advice tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So it's not yet time, but she is here and she is excited. We can tell probably that's why she was running off the subway. Where did Rose go? Can you find her? The ticket sales are over here. And what does the sign say? Can you read it? It says stage door. She is headed behind the building and she looks like she is walking into the stage door. You see her foot telling us that she has already gone through the door. So this sneaky thing is not standing in any line. She has found the sign that says stage this way. I can infer based on the things that Rose has done before, she will find herself onto stage. Look at her face. Quiet, please. Rehearsal in progress. Look, she's nervous. You think she's I'm nervous. Oh my goodness. And there she is. Lillian Mayhew and Rose. If you can't tell her face, she's smiling, and you can tell she's just excited to be where she is. This is an up-close picture of Lillian's face, and you can tell she's really pretty. And that might be why Rose looks up to her, because she's a beautiful actress, and maybe that's what Rose wants to be one day. And you see this picture of Rose, and she's kind of holding on to like a prop on the stage. And if you know anything about props on the stage, I want you to infer what may happen based on the grip she has. Maybe she's leaning against it. OMG. Lillian's turned her head. Lillian has turned her head. And look at the face. This is not like an exciting face. This is a what happened. What kind of expression is she wearing on her face?
That's it.
That's the last page.
That's the last page.
All right. Well, this is where we will pick up in our next video. I want you to, can I just do this?
Yes.
In your Google Classroom, you have your packet, like I said, in ELA. You can work on the Wonderstruck Part 2 summary template. This is similar to the one we did in class. Remember, we had a Part 1, and we wrote down all the characters. What did they want to do? We had a conflict column. And then what did they do in response to the problem? And how did the conflict resolve itself? So I want you to start filling out the summary template for Wonderstruck Part 2.